She ran up to him saying, "I know how to get you out," and danced. She was holding the hand of a parrot, or at least someone with the head of a parrot. Her feet moved under her perfectly. They twirled her around, and this time her hand was caught by a peacock, or at least someone with the head of a peacock. She glanced over his shoulder and saw that she was now in a room. No, a ballroom full of masked people dancing. Ah, she thought, another dream. I should have looked where I was going. The music was strange. There was a kind of rhythm to it, but it sounded muffled and odd, as if it was being played backwards, underwater, by musicians who'd never seen their instruments before. And she hoped the dancers were wearing masks. She realized she was looking through the eye holes of one and wondered what she was. She was also wearing a long dress which glittered. Okay, she thought carefully. There was a drone there, and I didn't stop to look, and now I'm in a dream, but it's not mine. It must make use of what it finds in your head, and I've never been to anything like this. Wah, 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 said the peacock. The voice was like the music. It sounded almost like a voice, but it wasn't. Oh, yes, said Tiffany. True. Fine. What? Oh, woof, woof, woof. This seemed to work. The peacock-headed dancer bobbed a little bow, said woof, 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 sadly, and wandered off. Somewhere in here is the drone, said Tiffany to herself, and it must be a pretty good one. This is a big dream. Little things were wrong, though. There were hundreds of people in the room, but the ones in the distance, although they were moving about in quite a natural way, seemed the same as the trees, blobs and swirls of colour. You had to look hard to notice this, though. First sight, Tiffany thought. People in brilliant costumes and still more masks walked arm in arm past her, as if she were just another guest. Those that weren't joining the new dance were headed for the long tables at one side of the hall, which were piled with food. Tiffany had only seen such food in pictures. People didn't starve on the farm, but even when food was plentiful at Hoxwatch or after harvest, it never looked like this. The farm food was mostly shades of white or brown. It was never pink and blue and never wobbled. There were things on sticks and things that gleamed and glistened in bowls. Nothing was simple. Everything had cream on it, or chocolate whirls, or thousands of little coloured balls. Everything was spun or glazed or added to or mixed up. This wasn't food. It was what food became if it had been good and had gone to food heaven. It wasn't just for eating, it was for show. It was piled up against mounds of greenery and enormous arrangements of flowers. Here and there, huge transparent carvings were landmarks in this landscape of food. Tiffany reached up and touched a glittering cockerel. It was ice, damp under her fingertips. There were others too, a jolly fat man, a bowl of fruits all carved in ice, a swan. Tiffany was, for a moment, tempted. It seemed a very long time since she'd eaten anything, but the food was too obviously not food at all. It was bait. It was supposed to say, "Hello, little kiddie, eat me." I'm getting the hang of this, thought Tiffany. Good job the creature didn't think of cheese. And there was cheese. Suddenly, cheese had always been there. She'd seen pictures of lots of different cheeses in the almanac. She was good at cheese and had always wondered what the others tasted like. There were faraway cheeses with strange-sounding names. Cheeses like Treble Wibbly, Waney Tasty, Old Arg, Red Runny, and the legendary Lancre Blue, which had to be nailed to the table to stop it attacking other cheeses. Just a taste wouldn't hurt, surely. Wasn't the same as eating, was it? After all, she was in control, wasn't she? She'd see right through the dream straight away, hadn't she? So it couldn't have any effect, could it? And, well, cheese was hardly temptation for anyone. Okay, the drone must have put the cheese in as soon as she'd thought of it, but she was already holding the cheese knife. She didn't quite remember picking it up. A drop of cold water landed on her hand. It made her glance up at the nearest glittering ice carving. Now it was a shepherdess with a saddlebag dress and a big bonnet. Tiffany was sure it had been a swan when she'd looked at it before. The anger came back. She'd nearly been fooled. She looked at the cheese knife. "Be a sword," she said. After all, the drone was making her dream. But she was doing the dreaming. She was real. Part of her wasn't asleep. There was a clang. "Correction," said Tiffany. "Be a sword that isn't so heavy." And this time she got something she could actually hold. There was a rustling in the greenery, and a red-haired face poked out. "Psst," it whispered. "Dinna eat the canapes." "You're a bit late." "Well, that's a cunning old drone you're dealing with here," said Rob Anybody. "The dream wouldn't let us in unless we was properly dressed." He stepped out looking very sheepish in a black suit with a bow tie. There was more rustling, and other pixies pushed their way out of the greenery. They looked a bit like red-headed penguins. "Properly dressed," said Tiffany. "Aye," said Daft Willie, who had a piece of lettuce on his head. "And these trousers are a wee bit chafing around the nethers, I don't mind telling you." "Have you spotted the creature yet?" said Rob Anybody. "No, it's so crowded." "There you look," said Rob Anybody. "The thing canna hide if you're right up close. Be careful, mind you, if it thinks you're going to whap at one. There's nae telling what it'll try. Spread out, lads, and pretend you're enjoying the gaily." "What d'ye mean, get drunk and fight and that?" said Daft Willie. "Grivens, you wouldn't believe it," said Rob Anybody, rolling his eyes. "Nay, you puddin', this is a posh party, you ken. That means you max small talk and mingle." "I'm a famous mingler. They won't even know we're here," said Daft Willie. "Come on." Even in a dream, even at a posh ball, the Knack MacFeagle knew how to behave. You charged in madly and you screamed politely. "Lovely weather for the time of the year, is it not, you wee scunner? Hey, Jimmy, ha' you no got a pomme frite for an old pal? The band is playing divinely, I dinna think. Make my caviar deep fried, will you?" There was something wrong with the crowd. No one was panicking or trying to run away, which was certainly the right response to an invasion of Feagles. Tiffany set off again through the crowd. The masked people at the party paid her no attention either. And that's because they're background people, she thought, just like the background trees. She walked along the room to a pair of double doors and pulled them open. There was nothing but blackness beyond it. So the only way out was to find the drone. She hadn't really expected anything else. It could be anywhere. It could be behind a mask. It could be a table. It could be anything. Tiffany stared at the crowd, and it was then she saw Roland. He was sitting at a table by himself. It was spread with food, and he had a spoon in his hand. She ran over and knocked it onto the floor. "Haven't you got any sense at all?" she said, pulling him upright. "Do you want to stay here forever?" And then she felt the movement behind her. Later on, she was sure she hadn't heard anything. She'd just known it was a dream after all. She glanced around, and there was the drone. It was almost hidden behind a pillar. Roland just stared at her. "Are you all right?" said Tiffany desperately, trying to shake him. "Have you eaten anything?" "Whaff, whaff, whaff," murmured the boy. Tiffany turned back to the drone. It was moving towards her, but very slowly, trying to stay in the shadows. It looked like a little snowman made of dirty snow. The music was getting louder. The candles were getting brighter. Out on the huge dance floor, the animal-headed couples whirled faster and faster, and the floor shook. The dream was in trouble. The Knack MacFeagles were running to her from every part of the floor, trying to be heard above the din. The drone was lurching towards her, podgy white fingers grasping the air. "First sight," breathed Tiffany. She cut Roland's head off. The snow had melted all across the clearing, and the trees looked real and properly tree-like. In front of Tiffany, the drone fell backwards. She was holding the old frying pan in her hand, but it had cut beautifully. Odd things, dreams. She turned and faced Roland, who was staring at her with a face so pale he might as well have been a drone. "It was frightened," she said. "It wanted me to attack you instead. It tried to look like you, and made you look like a drone, but it didn't know how to speak. You do. You might have killed me, he said hoarsely. No, said Tiffany. I just explained. Please don't run away. Have you seen a baby boy here? Roland's face wrinkled. What? He said. The Queen took him, said Tiffany. I'm going to fetch him home. I'll take you too if you like. You'll never get away, whispered Roland. I got in, didn't I? Getting in is easy. No one gets out. I mean to find a way, said Tiffany, trying to sound a lot more confident than she felt. She won't let you. Roland started to back away again. Please, don't be so stupid, said Tiffany. I'm going to find the Queen and get my brother back, whatever you say. Understand? I've got this far, and I've got help, you know? Where? Said Roland. Tiffany looked around. There was no sign of the Nakmak-Feagles. They always turn up, she said, just when I need them. It struck her that there was suddenly something very empty about the forest. It seemed colder too. They'll be here any minute, she added, hopefully. They got trapped in the dream, said Roland flatly. They can't have. I killed the drone. It's more complicated than that, said the boy. You don't know what it's like here. There's dreams inside dreams. There's other things that live inside dreams. Horrible things. You never know if you've really woken up, and the Queen controls them all. They're fairy people anyway. You can't trust them. You can't trust anyone. I don't trust you. You're probably just another dream. He turned his back and walked away, following the line of footprints.